Hello, this is the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Today we're looking at scientific notation. So what is it? It's a way of representing really large or really small numbers in a way that's easy to understand. So let's say I have a number here. I'm just going to make up some random digits. Okay, it's a very, very, very big number. A lot of people wouldn't be able to tell you what exactly that number is. It's actually 1,876,500,000. It's a very big number. Looking at that many digits, that probably hurts most people's minds. And it's hard to compare, two numbers that have heaps and heaps of digits without having to count which has more digits. So we've come up with a way that we can represent the numbers a lot easier. So what we do is we write a big or small number as something times 10 to the power of something, and it's easier to understand. So this number here must be between, but not including, 1 and 10, and this here is a whole number. Okay, I should point out that this one here is often a decimal. It can be a whole number, but it's often a decimal. Okay, so we want to write numbers like this in this form. So how are we going to do it? Well, we need to use our knowledge of indices because there is a power up here. Okay, so all the steps are up here. So what we do is we take our really large or really small number, we move the decimal point until we get a number between 1 and 10. That new number between 1 and 10 goes here. The number of places we move the decimal goes in this box, but if we move the decimal point right, then the number becomes negative. So let's look at the number that we have here, this big number. So I know that this whole number, like any whole number, is the same as that 0.0. So I can put a decimal point at the end of a whole number, and it doesn't change the number. So I want to move the decimal point until I get a number between 1 and 10. So if I move the decimal point one spot, the number's way bigger than 10. So I keep moving it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spots. Now the number, if I move the decimal point to here, would be 18.76. So that's not between 1 and 10, but if I move it one more spot, it becomes 1.8765. That is between 1 and 10. So I've moved the decimal spot, as you can see, a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spots. So what I do is I write the number into the first box. So that number is 1.8765. Okay, 1.8765. So the number that goes in the box, the second box, is how many places I moved the decimal spot. So I moved it 9 spots, so I put a 9 up there. So I actually moved the decimal point in this example to the left. So this number here is positive, I don't need to change it. So this number here is equal to 1.8765 times 10 to the power of 9. And once you get used to it, it'll be much easier using numbers like this. Okay, let's look at another example, this time with a really small number. So let's look at the number here, 0.000625, very small number, very close to 0. So same thing, I want to write this as something times 10 to the power of something. So I move my decimal point until I get a number between 1 and 10. If I move it 1, 2, 3, 4 spots, I now get a number between 1 and 10, 6.25. So that goes in the first box. In the second box goes how many places I moved the decimal spot. But because I moved it to the right, this number's negative. So it's 6.25 times 10 to the power of negative 4. So when I raise 10 to a negative power, it doesn't give me a negative answer. 10 to the power of negative 4 is just 1 over 10 to the power of 4, or 1/10,000th. So this is, if you like, 6.25 10,000ths of a number. Okay? So it's always got to be a negative here. If you move the decimal point right, that signifies the number is less than 1. So I'm going to do one more example, this time with significant figures. Okay, so for this final example, I'm going to write this big number in scientific notation, but to two significant figures. So this number is 19,268,000. So I'll write out my number, 268,000 with a decimal point. So I want to write it as something times 10 to the power of something. I move my decimal point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spots. Now the number is between 1 and 10. It's 1.9268. Because I moved it 7 spots, I put a 7 here, but it's not -7 because I moved to the left. Now to do it to two significant figures, I just look at the decimal here, and I change that to two significant figures. So remember, significant figures, I don't count zeros at the start of a number. So 1 is the first significant figure, 9 is a significant figure, the next figure is 2, it's less than 5, so I round down. So this to two significant figures is 1.9 times 10 to the power of 7. You'll notice that I leave this part, the 10 to the power, alone. I'm only changing, when I round to significant figures, I'm only changing the decimal. Alright, hopefully you now understand scientific notation. This has been the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Have a great day.